renter's insurance, and for applicants to meet 2 to 3 times an ever-increasing rental requirement. In this housing market, I've been turned down over and over, and landlords make money every time I apply. Black mothers are the hardest hit by this housing crisis. We are more likely to be evicted, and those of us who are able to afford forced to settle for poor housing conditions just to keep a roof over our heads in this city. Why? Because I have an eviction on my record. I have an eviction on my record that's followed me since 2017 apartment because the graphite from the place I work stayed in the carpet.
That ain't right. That ain't right.
The landlord never sent me an itemized dollars.
That ain't right.
6 years ago, I didn't have $5,000 to give that landlord, and today I still don't have it. I'm not the only person in this country who doesn't have $5,000 laying around. 60% of the Americans living in the United States don't have $500. The justice system essentially was punishing yet another black mother, and this has felt like a life sentence. I serve this country and I work hard to make an income. This housing crisis and this eviction has kept me and my child separated and myself moving place to place. I want better for myself and my child, and I want us reunited to have the same security my grandfather was able to give me when I was a child.
You deserve it. That's right. You deserve it. That's right.
As a U.S. military veteran, I have access to the VA home loan program, and that could be my last hope for getting stable housing for my family. The problem then becomes, can I afford to own a home in this housing crisis? So far, the answer is no. With interest rates and property taxes rising in the community I want us to live in, I'm still likely to pay $1,200 mortgage and more, which I cannot afford, and that ain't right.
That ain't right.
We need Louisville's black communities to be policy protected so that families like mine can find housing that we can afford in neighborhoods with strong community bonds like Smoketown.
Yes,
Thank you.
That's right. That's
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. It meant a lot. Up next, we have Miss Shamika Parrish-Wright.
Good afternoon. Today, I am the director of Vocal Kentucky. In 2002, I was homeless on the streets of Louisville, Kentucky. In 2014, I was homeless again on the streets of Louisville, Kentucky. I was not born here, but I come from a very gentrified over the Rhine in Cincinnati, Ohio. I've lived this, I've experienced it, and I moved away from it. I was also one of the directly impacted people who was advocating our Metro Council back when the Housing Trust Fund was enacted and funded. I am embarrassed and ashamed to hear how that money has been spent. I am also on the board of the Homeless Coalition as one of the only people who have been directly impacted by homelessness. No matter how many titles or how many offices or whatever I do, I am still impacted by homelessness. My children, my 6 children. When I had Section 8 at 24th and Jefferson, mushrooms grew through the window. My electric bill was $600 to $700. I thought I was paying my neighbor's bill. I left Section 8 because I couldn't afford LG&E.
That ain't right.
My mother lived in Smoketown on Preston, and I had to stay with her for weeks at a time because my LG&E was cut off. And I didn't want to do what other people had to do, is put an old meter on our apartment. So I had to leave to be able to send my kids to school and stay with my mother until I was paid again. These issues are real, and people are living them. Everything she just said to you, I have a touch point to every part of her story, even down to the mortgage I am blessed to pay today. It matters. It matters when you house people. We are all surviving failed policies here in Louisville, and Black communities are surviving them more than any other community. They're asking for this ordinance. We deserve this ordinance. It is not hard. It is not complicated. There's plenty of land. There's plenty of places to develop. There's plenty of housing that can be used to house and meet the needs. There's no need to be greedy, because that's what we're really talking about is greed.
Yes.
People being boxed out from having a decent life to go from surviving to thriving, like I've recently been able to do. But these tears are in my eyes because I know what it's like to sleep on Shelby Street with my kids in the car, because I didn't want to lie to the women's center that I was being abused. I just didn't have a place to live. And Wayside didn't have room for me when it was on Market Street because my family is so big.
Yes.
And so I slept in the car night after night with my kids. People are doing that right now.
Yeah, they are.
Nobody should have to do that. So much money is coming into our city and to our state, and it needs to go to the people. It starts with better policy, and we shouldn't need protected policy, but we do. We shouldn't need the organizations fighting for that protected policy, but we do. So Louisville, we have a chance to go into a different direction.
Yes.
I want to stand here and not feel bad for the people who are dealing with this. And the best way to do it is to be advocates. I listened to Jasmine's story. I know what that story is. Too many of us know that story.
Yes.
The people of Smoketown are worthy of so much more and better.
Yes.
Let's lift up those signs, because the answers is in those signs. This is what we need. This is why we're here. It's not hard, and they can read. The people who are doing this can read. Read the signs. Give us what we're asking for, protected policy. Thank you.
We deserve to be policy protected.
We deserve to be policy protected.
Up next, we have Dr. Keish Kumi Price with the Louisville Urban League.
Good afternoon. I think it's very fitting that we're here in Smoketown, the oldest Black neighborhood here in Louisville. And we're talking about policies that need to be in place. Neighborhoods are not just places. It's people. And if you can say, listening to Jacory, you sharing that information about what's been written into policy, and we said 2019. So we're not talking years ago, 2019, and we're in 2023. If we are not connecting the dots between the DOJ report that just happened and what's happening to try to push people out of social and economic equality, we're not connecting the dots. This is all connected. And if we're going to stand in a space in this city and say that we are hearing stories like Stacia's story, and that's her lived experience, and she's not alone. We are here today, Louisville Urban League, and I want to make sure that I'm saying this clearly. Our mission is to assist, and this has been for decades. We're 102 years old. Has been to assist African Americans and other marginalized populations to gain social and economic equality through direct services and advocacy. We are in a space right now where we are struggling to get basic needs met because of policies that are not in place to protect people, Black people. That's a problem.
Yes, it is.
At the same time, talking one thing and then doing something completely different.
Say it.
The actions have to support the rhetoric.
That's right.
So we stand here in solidarity saying that policies need to be in place to protect historically Black neighborhoods. Period. Thank you.
period. Okay?
Point blank period.
Oh, let's chant a couple of more times because I love this one.
Yes.
Residents need to be protected. Residents need to be respected.
Residents need to be respected.
We deserve to be policy protected.
We deserve to be policy protected.
Residents need to be respected.
Residents need to be respected.
We deserve to be policy protected.
We deserve to be policy protected.
Residents need to be respected.
Residents need to be respected.
We deserve to be policy protected.
We deserve to be policy protected.
All right. Thank you, speakers, for speaking on such a heavy issue right now in all Black communities. We do not deserve to be displaced or erased. Up next, we have Jessica to come back up and handle the Q&A.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So we're going to start our Q&A section. Terry, can you raise your hand? Where's Terry? So this is Terry. Terry's our media coordinator for today. If we do not have your contact information and you would like to receive the press kit that comes with this press conference, please make sure you get your contact information to Terry. But we will be accepting questions beginning now.
With this being one of the first policies of its kind here in Louisville and in Kentucky, is your hope that other states and places adopt this as well to stop this issue?
That is a great question. Thank you. What was asked was, do we want other places to adopt this ordinance? We absolutely do. We have it written in the ordinance. So the way that it works for us to determine whether or not a development project will displace is that there is a displacement index that has been created. It's formulaic, plug and chug, quantitative data. And so that displacement index is now being made available for anyone to use. So whether or not you are in a historically Black neighborhood, if you are a person making $35,000 or less in the city of Louisville, in a different city nearby, you might need to use this displacement index. So please, we offer it to you. We offer this and anything else we can develop for other folks that are fighting to stay in their homes.
Are you able to share a general timeline of when the ordinance will be presented to the council?
It'll be in the coming months. We'll have everything. So we have a website that has a web page specifically for this campaign.